Hello everybody and welcome back to Apple Gaming SE. This is the news for the week of October 29th through November 3rd. So this was the week that the Scary Fast event happened, and boy oh boy, there's a lot to talk about. I could probably spend an hour talking about all of the stuff that's come out of that and the games that we've seen since then, especially Resident Evil Village, the performance on that. So we're going to kind of recap a little bit of that today. If we're going to first start, like we always do, with subs. 37 subs as of the time of this recording, so we got 4 new subs this week. Thank you everybody so much. We're looking at a little over 10% increase in just 1 week, so that's amazing. I'm 3 away from my 40 sub goal. Once I hit 40, the goal after that will be 80. So the idea is just keep doubling it up. Hopefully we'll get to, I would like, 500 good, subs, I think. That's kind of the goal for right now. I don't know, just kind of a hobby channel. It's not really anything I'm interested in making money off of, per se. Just wanted to do it for fun. It's been a great experiment so far, so I'm going to keep with the channel for now. I appreciate all of you, every single one of you. Big shout out to some Mac stuff, Mac Pro tips, and the Discord, the M1 Gaming Discord. So everybody in there, just stellar, great people to be around. So the Scary Fast event, we'll start there. I'm just going to link the Apple event page for this because there is a ton to talk about. Marquez Brownlee over at MKBHD said that this is a modest upgrade. Mostly the comparisons seem to be of the M3 to the M1, and that makes some sense in that part of the one of the focuses on this event was the iMac, and the last time the iMac was updated with anything was with the M1 SoCs. So it makes sense that Apple would compare the M3s to the M1s in that regard. All of the M3 chips do look like a meaningful improvement on paper, but the M3 chips especially look like the M3 Max chips, especially look like they have the most meaningful improvements over M2, which we'll talk about a little bit more shortly. Hardware accelerated ray tracing and mesh shading are both finally on the Mac. AV1 encode and decode now has dedicated hardware on the Mac as well. Some really surprising niceties that Apple put in all of the models of the MacBook Pros are the Pro Display XDR with 120Hz Pro Motion, and it looks like the M3 MacBook Pro, just the standard M3 MacBook Pro, loses out on Thunderbolt 4, and then so it's got Thunderbolt 3, but it is also missing a Thunderbolt 3 port, so it's only got 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, and it's also missing the what Apple is calling the space black, but I like to call it the spooky black color. But yeah, the base MacBook Pro for $1,600 looks like it's a great high quality MacBook Pro. And there was one thing that I was wrong about when I first looked at the neural bandwidth. It's now 150 gigabytes per second. Some people speculate this is a mechanism to create an artificial difference from the M3 Max, but I would actually posit it's probably more likely that the 3 6GB RAM modules use more power, and when you combine 3 of the 6GB modules, they offer more bandwidth in total. So pushing for an extra 50 gigabytes a second was ultimately doing more harm than good. Maybe I worded that poorly. The prior generation had 200 gigabytes per second on the Neural Engine bandwidth. The new ones have 150 gigabytes per second, but they have more memory modules on board. So instead of getting 400, you're now going to be getting 450 gigabits per second, is the way it's looking like it works out. But I haven't seen anything that actually verifies those numbers and shows any real meaningful difference as of yet. And I first saw this on Twitter, so I'm going to link the post, but there's also a more in-depth YouTube video I'm going to put up as well, or a link to as well. Apparently, the M3 Max outperforms the M2 Ultra in Geek Bench multi-core scores. So yes, you heard that right. M3 Max is outperforming the M2 Ultra. And I had to reread it. The M3 Max is it's looking really impressive. It's only by about 3%, so maybe some people can say that's like margin of error stuff, but I've seen up to 5% with some of the leaks, or some of the posts on Twitter. So I think that's still a huge win for Apple's engineering team, and I think it's a good win for TSMC's fab process, their fabrication process. I know some people have been down on it. Max Tech has talked about how the 3 nanometer node that TSMC is using right now is not quite as good as we might want it to be, but the reality is that it's still performing better than the competition. The yields are good. Maybe they're not great. We're seeing these Bend 11 core processors, which is kind of weird. But who can say what the inside machinations are and what the business insides look like? For us as the end users, it's an improvement, and there really is. I think at this point, there really is not a reason to get an M2 Ultra Mac at this point. Coming from 9to5Mac, the M3 iMac benchmark results reveal whether performance lives up to Apple's claims. So in the short version, yes, the M3 is about 20% faster. It's about 20% improvement of performance over the M2 and 35% over M1, which is pretty close to what Apple was saying. The GPU Geek Bench is posting a 65% improvement in the Metal Compute scores, which is crazy. So that new GPU really is a meaningful jump forward in terms of the graphics quality and fidelity. 9to5Mac has also posted an article about how the M3 MacBook Pro battery life compares to the M2. Generally, based on the metrics that Apple provides, the M3 battery is between 1 to 5 hours better than the M2 models that they're replacing. This is excellent, and we should all be cheering Apple on for this. But this is all just based on Apple's own reporting. And Apple's usually pretty good, so they're pretty close. I have no reason to believe that these aren't true, but there's always that caveat. Until independent reviewers get it in their hands, let's just wait and see what the real-world application is. That said, I don't think you would be disappointed. I don't think any of us would be disappointed with more battery life. Okay, this next section is kind of a big one. It's about Resident Evil Village on iPhone and iPad. So I'm going to link a few different articles here. We got a YouTube video. I want to say we have Game Informer or GameSpot is also in here as well. Anyway, click the links down below to get more details on it. And there's just so much to cover with Resident Evil Village that I'm skipping all of the original idea I had for the notes regarding resolutions that the iPhone 15 Pro and the M1 iPad and M1 iPad Air and the M2 iPad Pro, like there's so many different graphics configurations to talk about and the performance numbers of each. So I'm just going to link the videos. Mr. Mac Wright has a great video where he goes into all of these details, and you should definitely take a look if you're interested in the kind of the nitty gritty of it and performance comparisons between different devices. So universally, the complaints for both the iPhone and the iPad seems to be that the on-screen controller is way too obtrusive and it covers menu items. And the other is that all controllers connected to the game are recognized as Xbox controllers. Personally, this is fine with me. I like the Xbox button layout, and I can translate, Switch or PlayStation button controls in my head to Xbox. So that's no problem for me personally, but if you don't like that, just be aware. It's not going to show you, at this time, it's not going to show you the correct button menu layout or button mapping layout. Don't know if that's something Capcom is going to fix or Apple is going to help them fix. So not promising you anything, not trying to hint at anything, just saying as it stands, it's Xbox or nothing. So the good. Ultimately, the consensus seems to be that we got a AAA game on the iPhone. But this isn't the first time. Alien Isolation comes to mind. Divinity Original Sin 2 comes to mind. This is not a new achievement. On the iPads, the performance is generally really good. The M1, you can play at a nice high metal effects quality mode, get 30 to 40 frames a second. You're looking at 35 degrees Celsius. I'm not going to go down the whole list. iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, they do really good at 720p. Again, using metal effects kind of muddies things a little bit, but you get a little bit more performance. The downside is that the iPhone almost universally runs like 10 degrees hotter than its iPad compatriots. The M2 iPad Pro is obviously going to give you the best performance. It's got the most powerful CPU and the best graphics graphics hardware configuration. Although in Mr. Macwright's opinion, capping the game at 30 FPS and then going with higher settings with metal effects off actually is probably the best way to play it on the iPad Pro M2. Okay, we're going to round out the gaming topics today by talking about the holiday season for Apple Arcade. There are 8 games coming to the Apple Arcade this month, this holiday season, over November and December. The only one that I personally am interested in is the Sonic Dream Team. I'm probably not going to play it heavily, but it does look really fun. It has a real like Sonic Adventure kind of vibe to it. So just based on the screenshots, there's not many screenshots out there, but the ones we do have, it looks really interesting, and I am definitely excited to play it. It's also exclusive to Apple Arcade, which is a nice bonus for us Apple gaming enthusiasts. Hello, that's what this channel is all about. For our penultimate story this week, we will talk about Apple posting another quarterly dip as Mac sales drag. This comes from Macworld. Just fair notice, I am an Apple shareholder and have been for well over 10 years at this point. So just so that everybody knows. that said, I'm going to give my honest opinion about what I think is going on. So this year, Apple has posted its 4th consecutive decline. In terms of quarterly, its 4th consecutive quarterly decline with a revenue of $89.5 billion. That's not profits, that's revenue, which is down 1% from the same quarter last year. So last year is lower, it's 1% down from last year in terms of the quarter. So we're not talking about year to year, we're talking about comparing quarter 4 of 2022 to quarter 4 of 2023 is what they're referring to there. To me, this isn't a big deal. There's a couple major caveats in my mind. First is that the iPhone 15 series only came out during the final week of the revenue reports for quarter 4. So whatever profits and revenues that Apple has gained from those sales, or from the iPhone sales, mostly will not be reflected until the end of this quarter, which is Q1 of 2024. Sadly, this report doesn't include the M3 MacBook Pro and iMac sales at all. Mac sales are down overall 35%. I want to say iPhone sales were up 16%. So I think Q1 24 we're going to see a big jump. I think it's going to be. I think the story at the end of the quarter, come end of January, is going to be a bit different. Or end of December, because we're October, November, December would be the quarter, and then January starts quarter 2. The last part of that is it's a tough market in China. I hate to say it. I feel like we're talking about China every week now. Not trying to beat up on China at all. I'm just trying to report what's happening or speculation about what's happening. Apple is doing a lot better than expected with the double haymaker combo of the Chinese government kind of spreading some propaganda about the iPhones maybe not being secure for government employees, and Huawei is making their own domestic devices now, which the Chinese media is pushing, and they're also saying that the Huawei products are doing really well. I don't know what impact Tim Cook's visit to China had. Hopefully it stopped the bleeding a little bit over there, but I think that's probably why Tim Cook went over there. The Apple CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, reported that they expect Apple to look similar to last year, which is a lot of growth on iPhones and Macs, but a declination in sales when it comes to iPads and wearables. And this last story, I actually kind of threw this in at the last second here. This caught my eye because I've been having some issues with this, but iOS 17.2 fixes the Wi-Fi slowdowns and connectivity issues, which is what Apple has made an announcement about. Again, coming from 9to5Mac. I'm using an iPhone XR, and I see very occasional slowdowns or like a hiccup where the website doesn't seem to load at all for several seconds, much longer than it would normally take. My iPhone XR is running great. but I just hadn't connected it to maybe being iOS 17.1. I hadn't really taken much note of it, but now that I know that it's like an issue, I'm actually taking more mental note of it. So glad that Apple is getting that sorted out with the iOS 17.2 update. So that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the news. Please leave questions and comments in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe. Small video content creators need everyone that we can get. I appreciate you watching. Take care now. Bye-bye.